Hi, Dreckie here, and today I'm looking at the Viofo A118C2. As a bit of a forward, I borrowed this camera from a friend, so I've only had it for a couple of days. I won't be able to say much for its reliability, so just keep in mind that this video is more to discuss image quality and the camera's build than anything else. Let's start by taking a quick look at the camera body. This is the standard Viofo wedge shape. It is made of smooth plastic. The camera is mounted to the windshield with a thin plastic plate and some tape, which makes it look pretty low profile. The lens housing tilts up and down to get the correct angle once the camera is mounted. The 12-volt adapter, it's all built into one piece instead of having a separate USB port, and it includes this weird plastic thing, I guess in case you want to make it look more like a factory install and hide the wires. On the rear of the camera there is a USB port and another input port for the GPS, but not HDMI. Do note that the GPS is not included with this camera and it's fairly expensive to add, so it might not be the best idea to buy this camera if you do want GPS. The cam has a small but bright screen on the underside and 5 function buttons. It isn't immediately obvious what buttons perform what function, especially when it comes to the menus, as there's no visible indication of how to go up or down or select options without reading the manual. Once you figure it out though, the menus are pretty typical of this camera style with all the basic options for exposure, resolution, date and time, etc. When it comes to video quality, daytime video as well, it's okay. It's not the greatest I've seen, but it's not the worst either. The 1080p video has a decent amount of detail, but it just looks a little bit lifeless. Maybe I've been spoiled by using the A119 for the last 2 months, but in daytime, the color on the A118C2 is dull and the video appears washed out. For example, I was filming on a very bright and sunny day, but everything kinda looks grayish and colorless. It's far more apparent when I put the footage side by side with the A119, which has far more vibrant colors and better highlights and shadows. Adjusting the angle of the camera may improve the A118C2 a little bit, but if you have a dark hood, the camera could cause everything else to be too bright, and vice versa for a light hood. The A118 does do well in a number of situations though. For example, when pointed into direct sunlight, the camera properly exposes everything instead of getting too dark. And in mixed lighting such as in underground parking lots or in overcast conditions, the camera does expose much better than in bright sunlight. Night footage from this camera is average to above average depending on the situation. In the city with lots of street lighting, the camera picks up its surroundings very well. Just ignore the streaking coming off of the streetlights, that's a result of my windshield being beat up in, winter. On country roads at night though, without street lighting, the camera doesn't pick up very much other than what is directly in the highlights. This is about typical for most dashcams in this price range. Audio quality from this camera is its worst characteristic. It's kinda awful. The camera picks up tons of road noise and everything else is muffled and muted like the microphone is underwater. Even when the car isn't running, the audio is not very clear. Here's what it sounds like. Alright, so now that we're going about 50 kilometers per hour, let's do an audio test. This is a comparison between the Viofo A119 and the Viofo A118C2. Overall, is this camera worth it? Well, it's hard to say. Considering that the A119 is only $20 more depending on where you look and if you need GPS or not, honestly, the video quality is not that bad, but the A119 is just so much better. It has better color, better shadows and highlights, and the night video, it's close enough to call it a draw. The A119 is just a little bit sharper and more visible details. I'll upload a more in-depth comparison of those two cameras later. Thanks for watching. As usual, if you have any questions, please leave them below. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate everything.